Hey everyone. It is Joraine Costales with the Costales team at Intero Real Estate here. Just hopping on Facebook Live to actually kind of just give you an update on myself and talk about loans a little bit. And of course, with the coronavirus pandemic that's going on, as always, ultimately the priority is your safety, and hopefully you are safe and your family is doing well and you're all stocked up with food and toilet paper. And you may have seen a previous video that I did, or something that I always say is, if you ever need anything, any resources, need help, have questions, whether real estate related or not, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to be a resource for you, all things real estate related, but even things that are not real estate related. Even if you need help picking up prescriptions or an extra roll of toilet paper or something, always feel free to reach out to me. I would love to be a resource and help you out. Anyhow, this is Facebook Live, but if I'm actually going to be downloading this video and emailing it out to everyone that I know. So if you are watching this on the replay and you see me saying hi to everyone on Facebook Live, I have not lost my mind due to self-isolation during quarantine. If someone asks me a question, I might answer. So that's probably what you'll be seeing if you're watching this on the replay via email. So I kind of just wanted to hop on here. And like I said, wish everyone, hopefully you're all doing well and safe. We're doing well, we're safe. But there's definitely a lot of misconceptions that are going around right now, and uncertainty based on kind of what's going on, right? We have this coronavirus pandemic, but I'm getting a lot of questions from clients and people that are just asking, like, well, what does this mean for housing? What does this mean for lending? What does this mean with the real estate market? And so I actually am going to start doing more videos of this because I want to help be a resource and advise everyone and kind of keep everyone up to date in a world where information is just changing so quickly, basically day by day and hour by hour. It could be something new. And so this is generally kind of what I've been seeing for the past few weeks now. And things have kind of stabled. I mean, things are still changing, but they've kind of been happening long enough to a point where we kind of have a better grasp on what's happening. So just a quick recap, real estate professionals are considered essential businesses in California. However, there are new protocols and restrictions and guidelines and things that we have to comply with. So that'll probably be another video. But I've been getting a lot of loan questions. And so I wanted to kind of get on here and tackle the question of, how are loans changing during the coronavirus pandemic? And this could be for renters, this could be for homeowners, this could be for people that are thinking of buying either now or in the near future. And so just to tell you guys a little story, I had a client call me up and he was working with a lender that he knew for like several years. And he calls me up and he says, hey, my lender is at home. I guess they're not doing loans right now. And I don't know if their business was shut down or if that loan officer was just like checked out and wasn't doing loans and kind of just, hiding under the pillows until this whole thing blows over. But the client called me and said, hey, my lender's not doing loans right now. Can you introduce me to a lender or someone that does loans? And as you guys know, I work with so many different loan professionals from Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Premier Lending, Prosperity Mortgage, CalCoast. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So I can refer someone loan professionals all day, but I always want to match and make sure that the loan officer that I am referring to a prospective buyer or someone is a good match based on what that client is trying to achieve or what their goal is. And so I said, yeah, I can definitely refer you to someone. What do you need? And he said, well, the lender that I was working with said that they're no longer doing conventional loans. They, meaning the banks. He said, banks are no longer doing conventional loans. They're only doing loans that are government backed, such as like FHA or VA loans. Is that true? And I said, well, I haven't heard anything, but then again, I'm not a loan professional, so I always like to go straight to the source. So I called up one of my loan partners and I said, hey, have you heard this, or is this true that, banks are no longer doing conventional loans and that they're only doing FHA or VA loans? And she said, oh my gosh, no, that's so wrong. We're still doing conventional loans. We're still doing this. And so, to make a long story short, ultimately what I am trying to drive home here, the point that I'm trying to make is, now more than ever, who you work with definitely matters in this market. I mean, there are lenders who are not able to do loans. There are lenders that are giving false information, or maybe that's just something that they're not doing, or they're limited and their hands are tied behind their back, right? But there's so much going on. Like I got a text the other day from a client and he said, hey, is it true that Chase is now requiring all borrowers to have a 700 credit score and put 20% down? And I said, well, I haven't heard that, but like I said, I always like to fact check. So, I looked it up and I saw it on Google, and then I always call and, so here's the information. So as of 2 days ago, it says Chase now requires a 700 FICO score and 20% down payment to buy a home. Now, if you've ever watched any of my real estate videos, like ever, I am always telling you, and especially because I work with a lot of first-time home buyers, I'm always telling people you do not need 20% down to purchase a home in this market. And there are definitely options available to you as a potential home buyer, especially if you're a first-time home buyer and you want to buy a home. And so I did a little digging, and it says that, simply put, if a borrower doesn't have 20% down or a FICO score of 700 or above, they will not be able to get a loan from Chase to buy a home. According to Chase, those lending standards also apply to refinances on non-Chase mortgages. It should be noted that the changes do not apply to Chase's Dream Maker mortgage program, which makes loans available for low to moderate income borrowers with as little as 3% down and reduced mortgage insurance requirements. So even though Chase is saying, hey, these are the new standards, these are the guidelines, they're also saying that there's flexibility and freedom there for other loan products or alternative loans as well. And so one thing to be mindful is that with everything that's happening right now, especially with, interest rates being at an all-time low, back in, was it March? And I mean, interest rates are still low right now. But there are so many people now that are applying because of unemployment or being out of work. And so you have these small businesses that are now applying for loans. And these banks are just so inundated with applications and refinances and pre-approvals and home purchase loans and small business loans and hardships and all these sorts of things. And forbearances, oh, that's another one, right? Forbearances. Now people can't afford to pay their mortgage and, all these things that are happening. So there's definitely a lot of different information that's swirling around in terms of lending. And these banks are getting so, like I said, backlogged and so backed up. They want to protect themselves as well. So these big banks like Chase are, raising their lending standards to protect both borrowers and themselves. And even other banks, like, I'll tell you guys another story. So this was the other week. I had a client who wanted to write an offer, and they weren't pre-approved, right? They were literally just browsing on Redfin or something, and they said they saw a house and they loved it. They said, you know what? This house checks 19 out of 20 of our boxes, and we would love to write an offer on this house. Can you please help us get this house? And I said, sure. You know, we have to get you pre-approved first. We need to make sure your financing is solid and strong, because right now there are lenders who are pulling out at the last minute. There are banks that are, you know, not doing certain types of loans anymore. There are banks that are re-verifying employment on the same day that escrow is closing, or even asking for verifications of employment day after day after day after day for several days prior to a loan closing. And so these banks want to safeguard their assets and make sure that they are not putting themselves at risk or putting a borrower in a potential situation where they could experience hardship, right, by getting this loan. So they're not just like giving loans away out there. They are actually increasing guidelines, I feel like, based on what I've seen in the past few weeks, just because there is such an influx of people coming in and doing a lot of different, you know, things in lending. And banks don't want a repeat of, you know, the Great Recession back in, you know, 2007, 2008. And so, you know, like as I was saying, back to the story. So this buyer wanted to get pre-approved. We literally got them pre-approved and wrote the offer the same day, and they got their offer accepted. Now, would that have happened in any other situation where the buyer was not pre-approved? And the words of the listing agent, so just, you know, here's some insider tips right now. Whenever I write an offer for a buyer and I'm representing the buyer, I always have my lender call the listing agent, and the listing agent talk to my lender, which is the person who is basically giving the borrower the money to purchase this property. And what we want to do, right, is appear like this united front, and basically we're telling the seller and the listing agent, pick our buyer, they're qualified, they're super solid, they're strong. And so the words from the listing agent, when I confirmed with him before he told me that the seller had decided to accept my buyer's offer, I said, you know, were you able to speak with the lender and connect? And he said, oh my gosh, your lender is freaking amazing. Those were his exact words, was your lender was amazing. And, you know, in this kind of environment where lending guidelines are changing day to day, and you don't even know who's in business anymore, or who's going out of business, or who's working or who's not. Like I've always said it, who you work with matters, but now more than ever, who you work with matters. And so, you know, I wrote an offer on another property, and the listing agent had my buyer pre-approved through the lender of their choice. The listing agent was pre-approved. Sorry. So the listing agent, okay, back up. So once again, insider tip, every time I write an offer, my buyer's already pre-approved. They look solid on paper. They've been, you know, financially qualified and they're good to go, right? They have their pre-approval letter and stuff like that. And the listing agent not only saw that my buyer was pre-approved with a lender of my buyer's choosing, just to make that clear if it wasn't, but the listing agent actually had us pre-approve my buyer through the listing agent's preferred lender of choice. And she said, you know, I don't even know what's happening in lending, and so I really feel more comfortable if your buyer would get pre-approved through one of these local lenders. And that was the lender of the listing agent's choice. And so we did it, and my buyer had 2 pre-approval letters. And I mean, how much more can you really show that this buyer is approved and ready to go? However, like I said, lenders are changing their requirements day to day, it even feels like, hour by hour. And so if you don't know what you're doing, or if you're not up to date with the most recent information, then that can definitely put you in a predicament if you're working with a lender who all of a sudden, you know, doesn't want to assume that risk and can no longer loan you hundreds of thousands of dollars for only 3 or 4%, right? And so, you know, like I said in the beginning of this video, the utmost, importance or priority during this time is obviously your safety and your well-being, and hopefully everyone's taking the proper precautions and doing what they need to do as mandated by the law and are staying safe. However, if you are in a position where you need to buy or sell a home, we are here. We are open for business. As always, I'd love to answer your questions or help you in any way I can, whether it's real estate or not. So feel free to reach out to me anytime. And that is the end of this live video. However, I will create several others that I will be rolling out just to kind of help you guys with the information that's kind of swirling around everywhere. So once again, I hope you're safe and well, and have a great day. Take care.